We are here with Rabbi Twerski on he authored a brand new book, Gvura 80, My Life, Our World, and the Adventure of Reaching 80. Baruch Hashem, you've wrote 61 books, Kein Yirbu, and you refer to writing, how much you love writing very, very much. And you refer to it almost like, you refer to it as like a vice. You actually refer to it as an addiction. Why do you refer to writing as an addiction, and what is a good addiction?
Well, the reason I refer to it as an addiction is very characteristic that, let's say a person is addicted to alcohol, and he used up the last bottle of alcohol, and it's going to be a couple of days before he's going to be able to buy another bottle of alcohol. In those few days, he feels terrible. Right? He doesn't have what he feels his body needs. Well, with me, I love to write, right? And if I don't have an idea of what I'm going to write next, so that after I finish a book and send it into the publishers, and if I don't have the idea, what am I going to write next? I feel sort of lost, like the alcoholic without alcohol. So that's why I say it's like an addiction, right? But it's, I think, a constructive addiction. And there are addictions like nafshi choshka b'Torah. If a person has the desire to learn Torah, so that when he does not have the opportunity to learn Torah, he feels bad, that's a good addiction. Right? And I think that if people develop good addictions, they'll be happier, everybody will be happier.
What sort of addictions do you think right now today is something that, like for example, like the internet addiction, is something that a lot of people use? How much of a focus do you think needs to be given to the internet and to the use of the internet today?
I think
vis-a-vis the addiction.
Yes,
yeah.
I think that internet addiction is a very serious problem. And I think that unfortunately, the past several years, it has not been approached effectively. For example, there were isurim given out on don't have an internet. Well, as our culture has developed, we've become more and more dependent on the internet for everything.
Yeah.
Right? Someone told me recently that in a few years it'll cost you $25 just to write a check, because you won't be using checks. Everything is going to be on internet. All transactions are going to be on internet. So we become more and more dependent on it. So to say don't have an internet is almost like don't have a telephone. Right? So the question is, all right, it's a fact, internet is here, and people need it for business. What can we do to avoid the addiction to internet? Now, there's two kinds of internet addiction. First of all, there's an addiction not to objectionable materials, but just a person will sit at the computer for hours, right? Look at this, look at that, get in chat rooms and talk and whatever. And the reason I think that is happens to some people is that some people are socially a bit backward, socially shy. Right? They don't communicate easily with another person. Right? They feel perfectly comfortable in communicating with the internet.
Socially uninhibited.
Right. I can't turn the other person off. I can turn the internet off. Right? So they feel safe in the internet, and so it gives them a kind of communication which they don't have with other people, and sometimes it gets to the degree where they stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning with the internet. Right? They bring their food over to the internet. So it's a serious addiction, because it really disrupts a person's life, and it takes him away from kind of things that he should be doing, communicating with other people and communicating with the family. So there's that one kind of internet. Then there's another kind of internet addiction, which appeals to people's temptation for sexual experiences.
Dvarim asurim, yeah.
And this is the schmutz on the internet.
Schmutz, yeah.
Right? Now, this unfortunately has hit in some very severe places. There are some people who, before the internet, sure, there were stores where there was schmutz, but nobody wanted to be seen going into such a store.
You had to proactively reach out.
Right. So they didn't want to be seen going into a schmutz store, so they avoided it. But today, in the privacy of their home, the privacy of the office, and the privacy of their handheld smartphone or whatever you call it, they can have access to all the schmutz in the world. And first of all, they know that this is wrong. They seem to be unable to stop it. And what these people have told me is that when they got into this and they know that they're not doing what Hashem wants, they lose their connection with Hashem, they lose their connection with Yiddishkeit, and then it begins to affect not only the relationship within the marriage, for example, but it begins to affect their Shabbos and their learning and their davening and whatever. They just feel that they've broken with Hashem. And yet, because they have this strong desire for it, the strong addiction for it, they can't stop. So it's caused serious problems. And of course, in marriage, the wife feels betrayed that the person is looking for gratification outside of the marriage relationship.
What sort of solutions do you give towards people somehow putting sort of like their use of technology under control, like the internet, for example? How would you say this is something that you should right away start making sure A, B, C, and D, these are the things that should be done?
Well, look, I think we have to set limits to everything that we do. If a person, because a person has a propensity of becoming addicted to things, that you have to set limits to, I'm only going to put this much time in it and not anymore. And if a person is using computers for anything else than business, right, then he has to set himself a limit of the maximum time that he's going to allow himself to be in the computer and then turn it off. Right? That's not an easy thing to do, right? But you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to set a limit for yourself.
What do you say about having internet in the home? How would you apply? It's not just like yes or no, but how would you apply the concept of how to have internet in the home? When is it a bad idea totally to have internet in the home?
Well, first of all, if you can avoid it, then it would be wonderful not to have internet in the home. However, if you cannot avoid it, or if you're afraid if I don't have internet in my home, the kids are going to go to the neighbors, and I don't know what's going to go on there, then what you do is you look around for internet with the finest filter to make sure that you don't have access to stuff that
you don't want to come to, yeah.
Right, protect yourself from it. Right? It's important that if you're going to have internet in the house, that it should be in an open place where nobody's going to see it secretly, so that they will have some sort of resistance to opening the improper things and people seeing what they're looking at. And I have another idea which I think is not specific for internet. I think we have unfortunately not fulfilled the concept of Kedusha in our lives the way we should. Yes, we keep Shabbos, we eat kosher, we observe Taras and Mishpocha, that's all wonderful, right? But if we really work on the things, what can I do to make my life more Kodesh? And I think that has a great deal to do with developing proper midos, right? And not just learning Sifrei Musa, but learning Sifrei Musa with an intensity and putting it to work. I think that if we develop that kind of attitude of Kedusha, then what happens is, let me go back to a childhood memory that I've talked about very often, that when I did something that my father didn't approve of, he would say, "Oi, es passt nicht für dir." Right? He would say, that doesn't suit you. He wouldn't tell me I was bad. He'd tell me, why are you doing something that's beneath your dignity? And I think that if we have an attitude about ourselves of Kedusha, then we'll realize there's some things that are beneath my dignity.